Welcome to the strange and mysterious world with William and Lee.
Welcome to Strange and Mysterious World Season 3. This is a bit of an emergency podcast. We thought we'd slot this session in. The Prophecies podcast, we've decided to move up for a week because this is a hot topic and it's about UFO disclosure. And obviously it's to do with the whole Ross Coulthard investigation that's going on currently now. He's from News Nation. He's an Aussie investigative journalist. He's actually an author as well, for those who don't know. He did a book called In Plain Sight. And he used to work on 60 Minutes, and he was in the Morning Herald. So he's quite a good, I think he's been in for 30 years, Well,
yeah, and also
anyways,
the Plain Sight is one of my favorite UFO books. It was a book on UFOs, and he did a very good job on that. And it's one of the books I recommend for normies that are just coming into the field and they want to. That's actually one of the books I recommend. Is In Plain Sight. Is very good.
Yeah. So now this whole thing that he's been doing now, because he's one of the forefront guys. Like, look, obviously we know about Lou Elizondo and the guys as well that have been pushing it. But with regards to investigative journalism, he's the one that's been pushing it for quite some time, quite some years. And the latest one now that he's done is with Jake Barber.
Yeah, because he broke the whole David Grush, which was a David Grush story, which was the previous big kind of disclosure step forward.
Yeah.
And obviously they went to Congress, and he admitted everything to Congress, what he knew about alien bodies and recovery programs in the Pentagon. Yeah.
So now Jake is also going to be going to the to Congress. He's going to be doing his statement. He claims that the US has a special secret UFO retrieval program. And they've been part of it for quite some time. But now my thing is, we know this. This has been going on for 80 years. We know that the US has been involved in a secret retrieval program, and back since Roswell. It's nothing unknown to most of the people in UFO circles. But anyway, he was part of the actual program. And what's quite nice is, a lot of the people that have come on, there's been like sort of a backlash of some people that say, oh yeah, but this guy's got nothing to do with, he's not military, he's not this, he's not that. But this guy, he's actually had people that have come forward. So he was with the US Air Force. He was part of an elite combat control unit. He had NATO top secret security clearance. He won an award for service in Bosnia. And all of the above stuff have been confirmed by people that are in the military. So it's not like it's a makeup guy. This oak has been around, and the people that Ross interviewed along with him, with Jake, like a guy by the name of Dan Bales, he was with him. He's a special forces operative. He also saw these craft that Jake was seeing. And Jake had been hired at this one specific thing. He was a helicopter pilot. And he came in and he saw this specific craft. And it was an egg-shaped craft. He said it was a metallic, like a pearl white craft, but there were no seams, there was no engines, there was nothing that he saw on this thing, and that he had to airlift this thing out and away to a secure location. So he was actually involved, which is, do you remember what I was saying in our previous podcast when I was always saying, look, we're getting guys that are like hearsay, and it's been, he heard from his friend who heard from another friend, and it's
even Dave Grush story is like it's all third and second hand information he's getting. He's not
correct.
Actually there. He never saw anything, whatever. He's just reporting on what he heard from very credible people in the military.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even his thing, even where it was like one of the biggest steps forwards in disclosure, it's also kind of, or hearsay. There's like no real evidence. You didn't see anything firsthand.
Correct. Now, this guy, the difference here with this guy, with Jake, is he actually was involved with the stuff, which is what I've been saying for so long. If we can just get these people that are involved with this stuff and give us the actual information, which is what has happened. So I'm so excited because I think this is going to push the thing forward. So now, obviously, with regards to these things, previously back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s, the people that were coming forward with regards to the UFO sightings it has always been the civilians, and it's always been these like oaks that freaking live in the back fucking sticks of the far south or something, and it's like, hey man, I saw this fucking aircraft. It was so it has never been credible. Obviously, yes, you had the one or two credible people that came through. They're kind of trying to tell the people, listen, this is what's been happening. This is what I've seen. This is where we are. But most of the time, it was like freaking just really shit witnesses. But since about 2010, we've been having military people coming through, people that have been involved in the stuff, people that are not illogical in thought. You can see especially people that have been in the military, they've got they're very strong-minded. They understand what they're seeing. So this for me is a major step. And now with this guy coming through, Jake, this is just, we're now into a different level. We've always been simmering. We've been simmering just under the pot there, just there, about something just coming through to really show it. Now, this is what's actually happened with Jake. He's actually come through, and now we're in another level. This is a different level to what it's usually that's happened. And there's a colonel, John Blitch, from the he actually stated that yes, he was one of the guys that came and corroborated the fact that Jake actually worked in these projects and is legit. Okay, so and when you got people like him that have come through and said this oak is there, no one can come and say, oh, this oak never worked for the military. He's talking shit. It's all made up stories. So now there's a problem because the people that are trying to keep it as a secret are having a lot of difficulty trying to do that because it's becoming clear and it's becoming uncovered. Now the problem is there's people that are in the governments that are hired to come and try and put fake news and say, it's talking shit. There's no such thing. They call them trolls. They call them trolls. So there's actually professional CIA trolls that will troll a specific site or specific and go on to TikTok or Instagram or wherever it is, and they'll just try to say, this is bullshit. There's no such thing. Yokes are out of your mind.
Also, they'll just try to discredit the person. Like obviously with Dave Grush, Dave Grush, and they came out and said that he had post-traumatic stress and he wanted to kill himself or something, and it was just like, okay, well, so what? I mean, what does that have to do with them telling the story? They tried their hardest, but it was just such a stupid way they tried to discredit.
And for me, it's just, it's actually past that now. I think the US government are so, if they try to do that now, it's just silly because I think we're past that. We're so far beyond that story now that I don't even think it's going to work. And hopefully Trump, I understand what you said with the JFK thing. I know he's been talking about it for some time. I seriously hope that he kind of says, all right, listen, here's the document. Because I remember before he left, do you remember before he left in his first term, he said to the people, he said, you've got 6 months to declare any alien craft or anything that you have. You've got to declare it. And they didn't. They didn't. Do you remember? So I want to see now what happens with that. But anyway, let's move away from that. So now there's something very interesting about Jake's story. Okay. And it's something that he mentions. We know them as something different, but they call them psionics.
Yes, that's so funny with the psionics thing.
Yeah. So there's specific people that are mostly born, but that can be trained, that have the ability to kind of meditate and bring these things into, or call them. You know what I mean? He can call this almost like a CE5, almost like a CE5. But they're using the word
psionic. Psionics is psychics. It's just basically a psychic.
Exactly.
Like, they have to give it a fancy word, the psionics, and they call it psionic asset. And he was... And in even the way that the protocol of how he called the craft and that they had this fancy like protocol, it was just like, dude, the guy's just meditating. He's a psychic and he's just using telepathy.
Also seen what psionics can do.
So listen.
I've had the pleasure of meeting multiple psionic assets. I've seen them function. I know that they're capable of doing what they're doing.
You can definitively say that you believe there is a capacity in the human mind to somehow psychically, telepathically connect.
Yes, and I don't know if it's a byproduct, if it's something that they were born with, but there is certain people who are quantifiably, verifiably capable of this.
Quantifiably, verifiably. What did he say? I've seen them. What does he say? He's seen them like not before.
I've seen them function. I know.
I've seen them function. It's just so funny, like the way he like talks about it. And it's just like a psychic doing telepathy.
Yeah. So that kind of with me, because do you remember, we've always been going on about toolputs.
Yeah.
So this, in my mind, when I was listening to the story, I thought this could be, because what he's saying is they're summoning them. Okay. And these things are coming, and they seem to be like egg shaped. Okay. There were some that were kind of almost like a disc shape. They call them eightagon or something like that, some weird shape.
Yeah,
but a lot of them were like egg shaped. And I'm wondering if it's got nothing to do with toolputs, because you must remember now, strong enough psychic frequencies and abilities, if they're able to do it, they can bring something that's from a different dimension into our reality. But it's a toolput, it's a thought form. Okay, so I wonder if these things, aren't actually just toolputs.
No, but I think like a toolput is more on an energetic level. I don't know if it can manifest in a kind of a.
I don't know. Maybe they've got the ability to do it. I don't know. It just sounded like that. But anyway, saying that, we kind of move on a little bit from there. They interviewed a guy by the name of Dan Garment. I think his name is Garnet, whatever. He was one of the guys that were in the force with him. He was one of the operators, and he said the same thing. He said he saw these craft, and he even said that the Project Stargate had still been operational. Stargate, as we know, was the remote viewing thing that stopped back in like 2010 or something. They stopped it. Okay, but he reckons that it's never been stopped. They just changed the name because they know that there's validity to these psychic phenomena. They know it. It's been tested. I mean, even you and I, when we do it, we know it works.
Okay, yeah. So, also, John McGonigal keeps on saying that they're definitely still doing it. It's just it's not. It's like the contracted now. It's not actually part of a.
Yeah. And what's funny? One of the bills that Donald Trump signed was something called Project Stargate. Okay, he signed it into. It's a $5 billion project that they've signed in, and what they've brought it in under as artificial intelligence. It's going to be like a whole artificial intelligence program that's run. That's called Stargate. Okay, so this is very interesting. These things are like kind of almost like syncing up. But anyway, so he obviously, Jake actually chatted. We spoke a little bit earlier about Senator Marco Rubio. He spoke to him about this UFO. So they had a long discussion about what Jake had seen and things like that. And Donald Trump has actually picked Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State. It's his pick. So let's hope the connections there will eventually, disclose to people.
Yeah, but Marco Rubio is quite fascinated by the whole topic, and he's been
he is, and that
about it. What do you call it? Like outspoken about it.
Yeah, and for me that's important. It's important when you get people that are on the same level and are thinking, okay, yeah, we've got to get something here, but there's a problem. Okay, so there's a conundrum here. So the retrieval program has been happening, say, since the 1940s. Okay, they've been reverse engineering the alien technology, and there's a lot of stuff that we've got from them, from like lasers and Kevlar and those kind of things that have come through over the years. And we now they started developing things like the TRB Manta that still hasn't come out. That's coming. All this stealth aircraft, all these things that have slowly but surely come through into our reality. So we've got to be careful now, because they will not disclose to the people the technology that they're trying to reverse engineer, because they're afraid now that Russia and China and that kind of stuff will cordon on to that and try and do it. But that's not to say that Russia and China haven't done their own reverse engineering, because there's craft that have been landing in China and Russia as well. So they've got their own programs in their country. So, but what the people do want to hear, forget about the technology. We don't care. We don't care that there is this massive technology that you guys are trying to reverse engineer and trying to make for the humans that betters us in the long run. That's cool. I'm happy with that. So I don't want to hear about it. All you need to do as the government or as the United States would say, listen, guys, we're not alone. Okay, there it is for you people out there. We are not alone. We've been dealing with alien entities. This is what the story is, but that's as far as we're going. Done. Okay, that will appease everybody. yes, it will come to a point now where these things will come down and people will start forming them, and it will be but I promise you, within 3 years, it's a norm. It's normal, because humans can adapt to those kind of things quite quickly. And when we see these, all of a sudden, these strange things, and we get so scared and all this shit that's happening, it becomes a normal thing. And we're like, within 3 years, oh, that old shit. Yeah, we've been hearing about that for a while. Yeah. So I'm keen. I'm keen to hear what's coming from that. Yeah.
No, carry on.
No, then I say, and then obviously with that interview that ended there, which I thought was actually a pretty cool interview, Ross did an immediate follow-up with another interview that he did with 2 other guys. One guy's name was Merrick von Rennenkampf. I think that obviously sounds German to me. He was a former Department of Defense official, and a guy by the name of Jim Galdet. He was a rear admiral in the Navy. So he interviewed those 2 guys, and both of those guys, again, top ranking guys, have said they agree and they believe exactly what he's saying, what Jake has been saying. So this is interesting, dude. It's so interesting, and I'm happy. I'm happy this stuff. But the problem will, and this has been happening over the last couple of years, we start getting into the role of it. We start saying, okay, they're having congressional hearings, they're having this. Okay, disclosure is coming. Some sort of disclosure is coming soon, and then something else happens. Boom, Trump, and that other arsehole Biden. Then it's like they take over the news, and then it's the fucking felt fires, or the fires that are going over in California. They're just taking over the news. So all of a sudden, the UAP thing takes a background. It's like almost no one's really cared about it anymore.
But it also doesn't even go anywhere. It gets to like a point, and it's like it just seems like it never actually gets to the. But this is probably the closest it's come. But also with the Dave Grush interview, what I found was, it's like firstly I was thinking, like, why did he even was allowed to talk about this stuff? Like I was thinking, it's so much information. You can see he's even got a video of picking up the craft and like taking. It's like the best footage we've ever seen of a UFO. But he also like kind of like, but is that a UFO he's picking up? It could be any egg thing. I mean, why is it a UFO? I mean, like how? And I was thinking, like, but how can he? I mean, if it's such top secret stuff, then why is he allowed to talk about this? But then there's another video that just got released today. It's a 2-hour. It's the actual whole entire interview that's actually been just released by News Nation without being edited. Because I mean, the one we're talking about, it was a 40-minute show, and now the whole interview's come out 2 hours, or almost 3 hours. And there was talk about him seeing non-human intelligence. I love that also. They call it non-human intelligence. Why don't you just call it aliens? I mean, what is a non-human?
Yeah. NHR, National Health Insurance.
Yeah. But I was skimming through when I got home before this episode. I was trying to skim through and find out where it said about the non-human intelligent bodies that he saw, but I couldn't find it. But I mean, I haven't listened to the whole thing. But he says in there that he went through the DOPSA program, which is the thing in Congress where they released that thing where they said that they will protect whistleblowers from the UFO thing if they came forward. So he's actually gone through the DOPSA program to talk about it. And he does say he is that they are fearing the people that came forward. Now they're fearing for their lives. But he also spoke about that intense experience that he had, like picking up but this is what's so funny about the interview, because I'm thinking, okay, this is amazing. It's all nuts and bolts, and like a nuts and bolts UFO, and it's so good. And the normies, this is great for the normies. But then he just goes into full schizo, like an entity, like took over his psyche, whatever, like possessed him. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, dude, you can't go this far now. Now we've lost everybody. It went full on like he talked about the most crazy, and they talked about the psionics, and it's like calling the UFOs with their mind. And I was like, okay, it was so good for the normies up to this point, but now it's just like gone so fantastical. I mean, like it's cool for us because we, when you get into the UFO thing, you start off.
You understand it. Yeah, you understand it.
Eventually, it gets to consciousness. It always ends up in consciousness. It's all about human consciousness.
Yeah,
and that's what he starts talking about. And I'm like, whoa, you went there. That is so crazy. Because it's so funny because he looks like this G.I. Joe, but that's just took a hit of meth or something, because his eyes are like fucking like this when he's talking. You find it funny when he. So I'm like listening to this guy. He looks like he's just come out of like Vietnam, and like you would think he would have like a whole bunch of ears strung around his like fucking neck with a rope, because he looks so tough, but his eyes are like so crazy. He's like, oh my God. And then he starts talking about how he when he picked up that egg thing, and this entity, like what did he say? He said like this entity,
There was an energy. So he approached the closer he was coming to the craft, the
but it
more this
overtook
energy,
him.
the more the energy started affecting him, and it was almost like a feminine energy. He said it was a
Yeah, but
feminine energy.
he said it came into me, and it was the most
Yes.
I've felt, the most I've ever felt the energy come into me. Like I said, I'm thinking, gee, he's talking, I'm thinking, geez, well, how many times have you had this like come into you? You know,
Yeah.
like, and but then
Look,
he
it was
talks
some
that
sort of
there's only one
communication.
entity.
Yeah, it's some sort
Yeah.
of communication, because even if you listen to a little bit later on the podcast, the interview another doctor, and he says it's possible that there's some sort of energy that is trying to communicate, but the communication side effects could be bad. So although you might get this overwhelming feeling of love and there's something here and they're trying to communicate,
Yeah.
something worse has happened, because now you start getting radiation poisoning where your
Yeah,
skin is
but
coming off, and you start getting these lesions and all sorts of shit, and now your life is shortened by 20 years.
yeah, because they had Gary Nolan on there, obviously the famous he's an experiencer himself, but he's won so many awards in the scientific field. He's like one of the highest like researchers in a certain scientific field of the brain or whatever. And they had him explain there, but it was funny because Jake, they're looking like the tough GI Joe guy. He starts talking about this entity that's possessing him, and he's never felt so much love in his life. Whatever. He starts breaking down and crying in the interview, and I was like, Jesus, like gone from GI Joe to GI.
Joe.
Yeah. So, I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean, I talk about fucking crying on the show all the time, but it was just funny to see that tough guy like that break down with this thing that's entered him. But then he started talking about how then his skin started falling out on his hair and everything, and it was like, and then Grady Nolan was like, yeah, no, obviously the radiation. So, and also then he said it's protecting him, and that's what's guiding him from like going through these interviews and guiding him through this whole process and protecting him, which was like, and that's when I thought, okay, well, this is a great step forward, but I think we've lost everyone now because he just said all of that.
Yeah, we've held on to the Klingons, the hardcore guys, the hardcore UFO guys.
But also Leslie Kane, I mean, obviously News Nation like does such a good job of like fact checking this thing, and it's been for years. It's not like he just came out. They've been background checking him and everything for years.
Yeah.
And only coming on. Leslie Kane, obviously, she's a huge, very worked for the New York Times. She's and also one of the UFO researchers I respect the most. She also vetted him and looked into his background. So I think the guy's like legit.
Yeah. Yeah, so look, let's see what happens this year, because 2025 is promising to be a very, very interesting year. So we've come off a very difficult year, but 2025 seems to be a very, very interesting. Things are happening so fast, dude. So let's see. I'm keen to hear what's going on. I'm going to be following this quite closely. Especially, I'm going to listen to Ross quite often. I want to see where this goes. I want to see what the stories are. Definitely.
Yeah. I've also sent Ross an email because I was talking to him because I used some of them in my UFO documentary of his podcast, A Need to Know, and he gave me permission, and I just sent him an email to see because I love to have him on the show, so hopefully he comes through. And also, I mean, it's a big month. It's not just this great step forward with another whistleblower, but also Willie Strieber just released a new book,
The Fourth
Mind. Which we're going to cover sometime on the show. Maybe we can email him and see if we can get him on again speaking about it. But yeah, the cover is amazing. It looks like his first book, The Communion, was first alien encounter book. But it's the alien on the front cover, the iconic one that everyone knows. It's actually got human eyes, so it looks like it's actually it's more terrifying than what it didn't have.
So that sounds like hybrid. That sounds like a hybrid now, because
yeah. So it's probably got some like hybrid stuff in there.
Okay.
And then James Fox also came out with a new documentary, The Program, and he was interviewed on Joe Rogan, which was very exciting. I love that interview. People go and have a look at that. Okay. It's funny because it says it's on Amazon and Apple TV. You can rent it on Apple TV or whatever, but I can't find it. I've tried so many times. I don't know if it's just it's geolocated to, because I know like when you sell it content to a channel, they sometimes lock it to a certain area, so maybe it's only out in America at the moment. And And then also, what else? Yeah, then there's also another big movie that's coming out. It's by a Hollywood producer, Dan Ferreira, called The Age of Disclosure, which has got, you know, some big names in it, like Louis Elizondo, Mark Rubio, Kirsten Gillibrand is in it. So that's also exciting. I can't wait to see that as well. So yeah, it's quite a big month for disclosure.
Well, let's hope it happens. Let's hope some sort of something happens,
And
because
also,
you know what I mean. Yeah.
Hey, did you see Leo Elizondo? He got asked. He said that because I know in previous interviews he's been asked, like, there's something coming. What is that thing coming? And he didn't want to talk about it. But now he suddenly said in an interview that something is coming, like a big thing that, I don't know if he said craft, don't quote me on that, but he said something like a craft coming, but he can't talk about it. There was someone else that he said you should talk to that person that know more about it. But then Jeremy Corbell, he came out and he said that, but not from Leo Elizondo's interview. He's talking that because Leo Elizondo's, I mean, Jeremy Corbell's got a TV program. I can't remember what it's called or where it is, but on the one episode, he said, also quite recently, but not referring to what Leo Elizondo said, he just said they're going to say that there's a big craft coming and it's a load of bullshit. So it's so interesting. At the same time, these two things come out with Leo Elizondo saying the guy, you know, the UFO disclosure guy, the Pentagon, where we all, you know, a lot of us trust and think he's great, but some other people say he's a psyop. But he's saying that there's something big coming like a craft. And Jeremy Corbell, which I thought he was also kind of on that side of the fence, he's saying that no, they're going to say that, but it's bullshit.
So what is he saying it is then? So if a craft comes, what is he saying? Is it like Operation Bluebeam?
Maybe it's like Operation Bluebeam or something. So it's going to be interesting what happens, but it's
shit.
Also nice. But even in the Jake's story as well, because I was thinking like, man, this is so out there. This is so fantastical and crazy. How could he be talking about this? And then I start thinking, okay, maybe it's part of Operation Bluebeam. But he says he's under the DOPSA program. But I mean, how much does that DOPSA thing really protect you? So yeah, it's interesting times. We'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, awesome. Can't wait, man. So like I said, I think this year is going to be a good year. A good year for us UFOs.
Yes, and also another cool thing is Trump also, I just saw on his Instagram thing, he signed off that the RFK assassination files will be released. JFK, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, RFK is still alive.
Yeah, he's actually in the government, right?
Yeah,
he's in the government with Trump. So yeah, I mean, sorry, the JFK files, the assassination file, he's going to be releasing. Geez, I just hope they actually release, because you know you don't know who's in charge. They're probably just going to cook something up and just send it to him, and he's going to release it, and it's just going to be a bunch of bullshit. But yeah.
Yeah, it could. That's exactly right. I mean, it could just be a constant cover-up. That's all it's going to be. Because can you imagine it came out that the CIA were involved and the Pentagon was involved, and which you all know they were.
I know.
Can you imagine how, although as much as we know, it's not going to be anything new. When it comes out, we're all going to say, yeah, well, we kind of said so for the past 40 years. We've been saying that. But it's like nothing new, but it will be breaking for the rest of the world, because now everybody in the rest of the world, they say, well, fuck the American government, CIA, FBI, those guys can't be trusted. It's like, you know what I mean? It'll make it worse. I can't see that stuff coming. But anyway.
No, they'll never come.
They'll
cook up something and give us a fucked up version of it. Or a fake one, yeah.
No, 100%. But awesome, cool. Man. Yeah, cool. I think it's been a nice and fast one for tonight, guys. Sorry, man, we had to bring this one in because we wanted to be hot on the topic with what's going on. And for you guys that haven't heard about the stories, you can go through and check Ross out at News. What's it? News Nation. And I think it's quite interesting. Listen to see what's going on.
He's also, I don't know what he said on Need to Know, but he's also got a great podcast, Need to Know. But News Nation, all on there. The new 2-hour episode just came out with Jake's whole interview.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting time, guys out there. But yeah, so next week we'll be back on schedule with our prophecies for 2025. So yeah, like and subscribe, and we will see everybody next week. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Lee.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers, Brad.
Cheers.